Hey, everybody. Great to see all y'all out there in Undercurrents land. We got a great one for you today. For the first time in history, we have two old school New York City legends on the air meeting for the first time. This is going to be amazing. We have, of course, Eddie Sutton, who you all have been introduced to, and of course many of you may already know him. And of course we have on today for the first time FBI Informant Kevin Maher. It's going to be great. Two Astoria boys coming together for the first time, and we're really excited about this. And so we got a lot to get to today, everybody. It's going to be an action-packed show. Please get your questions going in the chat. We got to get some people in here. Well, I want to introduce to you as my co-host and co-moderator for today's discussion, a gentleman who I am very proud to say is one of my best YouTube friends out there. A great guy, an absolute gentleman of a man, and an extremely talented YouTube producer in his own right. May I introduce to you the one, the only New York City Crime Spot. Yes,
What's
Crime
up?
Spot. What's up?
What's going on, everybody?
Homie?
How are you? That's the first time I got one of those intros. I've watched them so many times.
Well, I'm building up to the final intro. So
there we go.
I couldn't give you the full V only. When it's just me and you'll get one of those. All
cool.
right. Next on board on this legendary discussion panel, we have one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time frontmen in the rock and roll game, and an absolute legend in New York City history. And unbeknownst to me until I met him for the first time, a true crime buff like you would not believe. May I introduce to our airwaves once again, the one, Moet, the only Eddie Sutton. Yes, there he is. Eddie, welcome back.
I'm not talking until you speak to my lawyer.
And finally, last but certainly not least, a man whose exploits are well known to people in the true crime community, a person whose life story, well, has filled several books and probably will fill several movies before the history is fully written, a man who hung with Roy DeMeo himself. May I introduce to you, for the first time and hopefully not the last, the one, Moet. You're definitely going to want to be sitting down for this one. The only FBI informant, Kevin Maher. Yes, Kevin. How are you?
What an intro.
Golf claps all around.
It only took three.
How's everybody doing out there?
We're doing great. We're doing great. And of course, it's super exciting to have both of you guys here. And I want to thank Crime Spot for hooking us up. Without Crime Spot, I never would have had you, Kevin, on my airwaves. So we're super appreciative to him.
He's great.
And of course, today, really, it's an amazing thing. We have almost two generations of Astoria boys here. Kevin, you grew up in Astoria, correct?
Well, I really grew up in the Bronx.
In the Bronx, okay.
And then when I moved, with my father, he lived in Astoria. So yeah, so from 13 up, I was from Astoria.
So from 13 up, and of course, Eddie, you're Astoria born and bred, right?
Yeah, from my grandmother's house, I could see the Bronx.
You know, it's funny, as a Bronx boy, I just had no reason to ever go to Queens in my life. I mean, that was like the lost borough to me. Even to this day, I have no idea how to navigate Queens. Kevin, one day we're going to have to hang out and you're going to have to teach me.
Well, you just take the N train to Ditmars. It used to be the double R, but, you know, you just got to take it to the last stop and you're there. Smack dab in the middle of it.
Yeah. Exactly. And today we got several generations of true crime buffs. And of course, Kevin was involved with the life himself. So super into it. So before we get started, Kevin, I want to when we had our pre-show meeting, you know, I'm a Son of Sam guy. And of course, you had mentioned, and I just want to get this out of the way. You had mentioned that you actually were near one of the scenes of Son of Sam. Let the audience know that.
Yeah.
Know a little bit more about that. What was the address?
It was in 1976. It was David Berkowitz's first shooting, and it was in the middle of the night. I lived at 1634 Mayflower Avenue in the Bronx, about 100 feet from the L. I don't know what train station is that there. Is it Pelham?
It's the 5 or the 6, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's this. I don't know. I don't remember which one it was. But anyway, so we heard the shots, and then the next thing you know, we hear police radios. Cops were all over my block. They were circling, and we didn't know what happened until the next day.
Now, real quick, so for everybody to see, so this is 1634 Mayflower right here. Here's the L train that you're talking about, and Donna Loria, who was the first victim, lived in this building right here. So you're saying that you actually heard those shots the night of?
Yeah, I mean, in the middle of the night, the only thing that makes noise in that area was when the trains went by, and people who live around L's in New York City, we tune them out. I used to live right by the 4 train on 204th Street and Jerome Avenue in the Bronx, and you just tune the thing out.
Kevin, real quick, when you say L's, you mean elevated station. That's what you mean by L's, right?
Yeah.
Okay, not L train.
And we'll show that for the audience real quick. So yeah, a lot of people may not know that just like in Chicago, a lot of New York City subways are on elevated tracks. So that's what we're talking about here.
Hey, Kaylee, I'm trying to look at as you pull this stuff up, and I got this stupid thing. What, Kaylee?
Technical assistance.
I'm trying to what?
You can't see this, Kev?
Well, I can only see 20% of it.
Oh,
Baby,
okay.
Can you get this box off here? Just come around. Try not to get on camera. I don't want people seeing your face. How do we get this off? This box.
Kevin, while you get that taken care of, I'm going to take you off the air. So, Eddie.
Yep.
There's elevated trains in Astoria as well.
Yeah. Originally, like I was saying, it used to be the RR, double R. But they switched it up, and it became the N line. And there's Express now, like the W and stuff like that. But yeah, everybody that grew up in the 4 of the 5 boroughs know the subway lines as the L because they were elevated tracks that took you back and forth into Manhattan for the commuters at work.
Right, exactly. And so now, of course, Kevin, just admit it, man.
We took that box off. It was some kind of page that was blocked, but now I can see everything.
You can see everything. Okay, cool. So, Kevin, I think you're just gonna have to admit it to the audience, Kevin. You were in the Son of Sam cult. Admit it. You were there. You did it. You did this.
A lot of things happened around that time. I mean, I lived at 1634 Mayflower Avenue, and 2 major things happened to me. At that time, I was working for the railroad. It was called Conrail. I had a beautiful new wife and a stepson. I'm trying to put that life behind me. I'm fresh out of prison. I'm trying to put that life behind me. And while I lived there, boom, a homicide case came up that I had to work, that I haven't gotten. It's in my book, it's the Ronald Schofield homicide. And boom, then this other idiot contacts me, all in the same window, and he wants to rob a bank on 15th Street in New York City. So boom, all of this is happening. And then we hear pop, pop, pop. And believe it or not, I couldn't see the map that you put up because I had that stupid box in my way.
Let's see if you can see it now.
I don't know, how far away was that shooting from my house?
Can you see this, Kevin?
Yes, I can.
Okay, here's Donna Loria's apartment building. She got shot right there, literally right in front.
And that's the L right there, right?
That's the L right there. And 1634 Mayflower is right here. This building right here.
Yeah, we heard it. We actually heard it.
So you were not that far.
We heard it, and we were sleeping. I think it was wasn't it like 4 o'clock in the morning?
It took place at 1 in the morning.
1 o'clock in the morning. And then all of this area was covered because we saw the flashing lights, the sirens, they were all on my block for some reason. I don't know why they thought my block, or maybe he drove up my block. I don't know. I don't know what he did. But yeah, I was smacked. So I had that going on. And
so you know, Kevin, it's amazing your life, and of course, anybody who wants to know more about your life should go onto your website, read your book, Cop Without a Badge. It's unbelievable, the stuff. And of course, we're kind of starting this conversation assuming people know you. We're not going to go into your full life story here because we just don't have the time. But I want to get back into now Astoria, because you've already showed that you were in the Son of Sam cult. We know that you were guilty of this shooting.
How would you not be? Can you imagine? And like it took like maybe 2 or 3 months before we realized that those shots were probably connected to all these other shootings that were going on. So
right,
you know, and then I wound up getting out of the Bronx and I moved to New Jersey.
Right. But take us back to Astoria, because both of you guys have associations with, with car theft rings, in a sense, where Kevin, you were just like directly stealing cars. You were working with Roy DeMeo, right?
No, even before I met Roy DeMeo, this is pre Kevin going to prison, and then after Kevin got out. Then he met Roy, and then Kevin goes back again. Thank God, knock on wood, it was the last time. So
right. And then, of course, Eddie, your father was one of the originators of the modern chop shop, or the chop shop. Why don't you guys talk a little bit about chop shop, what they were? Eddie, you get started, and then
I can color it. You know, my dad was a film editor for WOR TV. But he was born and raised in Greenpoint and grew up with like the sons of the Profacis and people like that. So as he was trying to start a family, and me being the firstborn, he got involved in auto body collision and a tow truck company based out of Astoria called Copo.
I knew that. I've heard of that name.
Yeah, and that was between like Broadway and 36th Avenue.
How do you spell that? C-O-P-O?
C-O-P-O.
Kevin, do you remember more about that place?
And he had chase trucks, right? He had a chase truck, right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, some of the stuff, my mom really kept a lot of that from me. You know what I mean? But my father definitely started going downhill after he got involved in the chop shop game and everything like that.
What do you mean by downhill? Downhill in what respect?
You know, trying to stay awake and work all day and rest when he needed, he got involved with drugs.
Oh, gotcha.
And he fell deep into that. And he robbed some serious drug dealers, you know, doing strong arm robberies. One story that I heard from one of my mom's friends, Mike Walsh, was a caper that they pulled in Lefrak City. And, you know, it's a lot of things that I'm trying to learn and understand, because, you know, it's my father, you know what I mean? So I've wanted to try to figure out a lot of this. But I remember being 5, 6 years old, being in the tow truck, running around Astoria with him, you know, even though, you know, to me, you know, it was just my dad, long hair, beard, tattooed, fully sleeved. You know, he looked more like a biker. And, you know, he was considered a cowboy, which is probably why he didn't go deeper into the OC world, was just because he was too wild.
Wow, too wild for OC. Kevin.
Well, I want to talk a little bit about chase trucks.
Yes.
So you were born in what year, Eddie?
65.
So when you was 5 and 6 years old, that's 1970, 1971. This is before I went to, this is when I was a flat out, I was stealing 2-3 cars a night for body shops. And this is something that has been forgotten about today. And I'll bet you nobody knows about it. Every body shop, if you were a licensed body shop, you got a medallion, like a New York City cab. They have these medallions and they put this emblem, this shield on the hood. And of course, all New York City cabs back then had to be painted yellow. And so did all New York City chase trucks had to be yellow. And let me explain to you guys out there what they did. It was very interesting. So body shops would be open 24/7. They would have a New York City scanner, police scanner, and they would have a scanner in the truck. And when they heard the call sign, I think it was a 1020 or whatever it was, which meant TA, traffic accident, all of those chase trucks, and some of them had 454 big blocks in them, and they would chase. They would go to the scene first, or they would always beat the cops to the accident scene, trying to get there first and talk both owners to, hey, come with us. I'll tow your truck in. We're going to fix it, do the body work. Bada bing, bada boom. Now, once they got the crashed trucks, now what? Now they need parts to fix it. And that's where I came in. But the whole chase truck culture back then was one of coolness. I don't know, of being really cool. All the young guys would have their girlfriends with them. They'd be blasting the movie, the radio, and it was that whole thing waiting for a traffic accident. And especially on Friday and Saturday nights, because everyone was shit-faced, and everybody on the road back then were all drunk. Drunk was weren't what they were back then compared to today, and they would chase them, and so that's how the car, in the auto repair body shops made their money, and how they got their car thieves to go out and I remember one time I went into a shop and the car was still smoking, because what they would do is they would tow the car from the accident scene into the body shop. And while the car was still hot and smoking, they'd given me the order to go get that car. And a lot of times I would steal the car the same day. They had the crash car there. Then I went out and got another one over right in, and they were taking that shit apart and dumping it out in the street. It was so funny. So one of the body shops that I worked for was on Astoria Boulevard and 48th Street. It was called Paris Auto Body. And then they had another one in 48th Street that was called Galata's. Did you ever hear of them?
Not sure, but I know that area, 48th Street, of course. There was a lot of body shops over there.
I connecting highway where we used to race. So I would steal cars for the body shop on 48th Street and Astoria Boulevard. And then on my Friday night and Saturday night, we would go to Connecting Highway and drag race from the 48th Street and Astoria Boulevard exit all the way to Northern Boulevard. And there's a section of highway there has 2 bridges, and it's exactly a quarter mile. Here we go again. Let me see. Wait a second. What is this? Don't allow.
Yeah, I remember being on a couple of my dad's calls. I also remember being in the vehicle with my mom one night, my dad, and the engine lighting up, and we had a fire, and him and another guy are frantically trying to put it out as me and my mom were in the car, shitting bricks, of course, but I have these vague memories that I've been trying to put together for so long to try to understand, because I stopped talking to my dad before my teenage years. So when he passed away, I lost the opportunity of closure, and I lost the opportunity to understand all that. You know what I mean? So it's a little frustrating being, you know, a grown man close to being a senior citizen, you know, and wanting to understand this life, this phenomena, and you know how it affected my family. You know,
I can definitely take you through what it was. I mean, the whole culture about the body shops having these trucks with big block 454s, speeding, jumping sidewalks. They're all trying to get. So if you have maybe a half a dozen body shops with chase trucks back then, they're all coming. As soon as they hear that, they're burning rubber, throwing gears, getting to that location. So
yeah, like an ambulance chase.
Culture within itself.
I have two questions before we carry on. Remember the culture, but I got two important questions. Number one, so the chop shops had, the auto body shops had the chase trucks, which would go out and get the traffic accidents. And then these body shops were associated with car thieves like yourself, Kevin, who would then go out and get the parts. Is that what I'm understanding here?
Absolutely.
And then
okay, I did it. Why do I have these friggin' boxes coming right up to block the damn?
I have no idea because it's not coming out on the air.
Shampooed everything. Look, I got the Donald Trump shit going on here, guys.
It's not coming out, so don't worry about it. It's not coming out on the air.
Yeah. But anyway, but I want to get, but that whole, you know, you have the body shops that are taking stolen cars apart for the parts they need. You got that. You got the actual working, repairing the cars and dealing with the insurance companies. And then you got the chase trucks. And then you got the car thieves that go out and do their thing. So it was like a whole bunch of things were going on about back then. And let me tell you what happened when it stopped. That's why you guys today don't know anything about body shop chase trucks.
Well, Book Club Warrior says here, and he was a cop, that Roto got here. Chase trucks were basically eliminated with the rotation tow program.
That's right. Yeah. But you know what happened? They did away with them because these chase trucks were getting into major traffic accidents and somebody got killed. So that's when New York City put the brakes on and says, hey, these guys are just maniacs trying to get to the traffic accident.
Yeah, I can see that.
There wasn't more traffic accidents going there.
What was the culture though? Like what happens? Okay, so all these chase trucks have police scanners. They're hearing about the accidents. They're all converging on the scene.
Same time.
Who then decided who got the gig? Like what happens when this?
So here's what it is. Here's what made a great chase operator. Here's what made. Number one, your driving skills. Number two, they had no GPS back then. Knowing the address, where it is, what was the fastest route to get to it, and then your driving abilities. Now, once you get there, then you got to be a used car salesman. Now you got to talk the victims, I guess you would call them, of the accident. They were victims. Into going with you, especially if you knew that if you got there first, that it was only a matter of seconds before another tow truck guy would get there. And a lot of these guys too were good-looking guys. They bring their hot chicks, their girlfriends with them. I mean, it was the cool thing to be in the late '60s, early '70s. It was a cool thing to be. With the whole thing about it. So, and then you got to talk the guy into. And then the other thing, you had to have a good rapport with the cops. Then you had to clean up. You had to take a broom and clean up all the debris off the street.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, it was a multicultural type of operation, and the same thing was going on up in the Bronx too.
Right.
And all
the boroughs. So now, Eddie, your dad was one of these chase truck drivers, in addition to the body shop guy, or he just drove the truck?
No, he was partners with Copo as well, and that was the culture. Obviously, you want to be the first guy there. You want to get in the victim's ear or the person in the accident, you know, let me take care of you. My shop is just this far away. I'll take care of you. You know, it won't be expensive, you know, and we'll get you a quote once we see what the damage is. And then all the scheming and the hustle, you know, making money off the insurance, getting the parts for cheap, and then doing the labor to fix it. You know, it's a pretty penny.
Parts. They all, you know, it got to the point.
There was an angle on all of it. Go ahead.
Yeah, there was one. I think there was one car that they needed a grill, and it was a holiday or something. Just a grill. It was held on by maybe 6 screws. I stole the guy's car for the damn grill. Just for the grill. Just for the grill. But now, of course, I didn't get paid. That was just a favor.
And of course, there was no conscience involved. You didn't care that you were stealing a car.
Hey, you know what? I can't think of an entity that I hate more than the insurance company. And when I came out to California, what do you think I did for a living when I came out to California? I worked for insurance companies as a workers' compensation fraud investigator, and they wouldn't pay. I hate insurance companies. They are the biggest thieves. So yeah, who cares? 9 times out of 10, when one of my cars would get recovered, the owner would say, "Oh, this, that." Yeah, everybody was making money.
Right.
The insurance company, and we were stealing, you know, late model cars back then, you know, and so it was. No, there was no conscience. I didn't care. You know what? I loved it. What do you think of that, insurance company?
But what about to the victim, the people whose cars get stolen? Like my dad, who had his car stolen 5 times.
They got their insurance checked, and they went out and bought a better car. It's time to upgrade. There you go. Everybody's happy.
Yeah, my dad was always lucky. He got his Datsun B210 stolen twice, and both times he freaking found it up in Yonkers, and he chased the people down who stole it. I don't remember. Then he got a garage space after that. So Astoria then was filled with these chop shops. Yes, you had character.
Astoria, Queens was one of the biggest. Everybody.
For close to 3 decades, the 114 was like the largest statistical precinct of auto theft. You know, even into the 80s and 90s, a lot of the kids in the neighborhood, especially when they started getting into cocaine, you know, a lot of these, you know, ethnic kids would go out and rob radios. Right. That was a heavy thing, you know, between the 80s and 90s, of breaking into cars, stealing radios, flipping it to a fence, and then going out and getting high with the proceeds.
So, Eddie, where was Copo? Do you remember where Copo was?
It was under the L on 31st between Broadway and 36th Avenue. I would think it's closer to like the 35th Avenue entrance.
So I'm going to 31st and Broadway in Astoria here.
Yeah. And off of 31st and Broadway, Joe Gallo, the consigliere for the Gambino family, had a candy shop until he was indicted.
Really?
They all had candy stores. I got a candy store story too on 28th Avenue and 44th Street.
What was the deal with candy stores? Like, why was that a front?
Because,
like, what?
Mostly because the candy store was the front. They had a legitimate business where they sold newspapers and magazines, and then they had a little fountain thing. I don't know if anybody back, you guys know what an 8 cream is. You go in there and you get a fountain drink with an 8 cream and one of those big pretzels, and you know, and they would do their business out there.
Right. Yeah, it was a cash business, you know, pinball,
but they were doing numbers. They were running numbers. That's what they did.
Kevin, can you see the screen? Can you see this car here?
Yeah.
Yo, They found it, man. They found your Roy DeMeo car. Here, look.
There it is, the Cadillac.
I know it's a Lincoln. I know it was a Lincoln, but isn't this something?
Yeah, this is a Cadillac. Yeah.
No, I know, but your Roy DeMeo car was a Lincoln. But isn't this something? We're looking at this stuff on Google Earth and right at Broadway and 31st.
Roy DeMeo didn't drive no Lincoln. He only drove a Cadillac. He hated Fords, just like me. I'm not a Ford guy.
Yeah, even in high school, there's photos of DeMeo with a Cadillac.
Yeah, he was a Cadillac guy.
Uh-huh.
He had some nice cars. He had 2 or 3 Cadillacs. I don't know if they were tag jobs or what.
So now here's the question I have. Kevin, did you ever come across, now what was Eddie, your dad's nickname?
Eddie the Beard.
So he was Eddie the Beard and Pomponio?
Yeah.
Kevin.
It was a very close, industry. Everybody knew what everybody else was doing. There was no, and let me kick back. Now let's go back to 70, 71. You couldn't be involved with anybody back then if you did drugs. If you did drugs, you were a junkie. They wouldn't hire you to be a car thief. Nobody wanted anything to do with people that were on drugs, period. And they really had to know, like me, they all knew that I was just a crazy gearhead that would speed and have cops. They didn't even like that. A lot of these guys didn't like me because I had a friend of mine named Jim Stocker that used to live on 48th Street between 25th Avenue and Astoria Boulevard. And I used to take my stolen cars. There's stolen cars that I would steal to do joyrides and do burnouts and just I would draw a lot of attention, and they didn't like that, But you could not be on drugs. There was a different. People looked at people that even potheads. They didn't even want to deal with a pothead.
Back then, yeah,
straight and clean. And all my friends back then were all straight. They were all, and I'm not talking about sexually. I'm talking about no drugs. Not even drinkers.
And clean cut.
Clean cut, yeah. We were clean cut car thieves. That's what we were.
Why was that?
My parents, they were younger, so my dad had that hippie and biker look.
Right.
The long hair, the beard.
Well,
and
all the guys that I dealt with, Perry's, Galatas, they were all Italian-owned body shops. They were all 100% against that. All old school guys,
Yep.
And I didn't even really give it much thought because you know what? I didn't do drugs until the 80s. In 1981, I did my first drug. I didn't do cocaine. But
and I guess it goes without saying that every one of these auto body shops was associated with some La Cosa Nostra family.
Oh, I don't know about. No, that's not true.
No,
there was a lot of guys that but there were some that were, and I think they were from different families. I didn't know too much about that back then. I mean, and don't forget when I worked for Joey Bikini at his body shop, that make believe body shop. I never knew he was a.
You never knew what?
I never knew who Joey was.
Right.
I thought he was a hustler like everybody else in my life. I had no idea Joey was who he was until he got killed, and I found out.
Yeah, I don't think they made it into a big money-making racket until the 80s came along. Like, of course, in Murder Machine, the DeMeo crew had a huge racket going, and the cars were being shipped overseas. But I think early on, it was basically for like the gearhead and the grease monkey type of business to get over a little bit here and there and make money just by flipping used parts and everything else and getting young guys to go out and rob the cars that are needed in order to disassemble and use the materials to fix repairs.
Yeah.
This is the way I saw back then.
Hold on, Crime Spot. You have something to say?
Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, Furby Love says something. Carmine Agnello had a big shop. Yeah, Carmine Agnello's shop was actually where Kevin was talking about earlier. Was it the stream? I don't across the street from City Field, where Shea is in the
Yeah.
junkyard.
Oh, and then the junkyard guys too. The junkyard
And
guys.
that is the
That was a big area.
husband
Yeah,
of
Gucci's.
Gotti's daughter.
Uh-huh.
What you guys were saying before about the mob with the auto body shop. I mean, they were involved in a sense, but I think more of their business was in the junkyards. They would use the junkyards for processing these cars, you know, actually chopping them up, whatever it was. They had more control, I think, over the junkyards, because any schmuck could open a body shop, but nobody's going to open up a junkyard. You know what I'm saying? So,
well, the thing with
you had, you know, Paul Vario, he had Bargain Auto Parts, you had the Carniglia brothers and the Gambino family. They had a huge junkyard on Fountain Avenue. So I think more of the auto stuff was stolen cars and junkyards, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And so what happens in the 80s then? Is it just that Roy DeMeo takes this into overdrive with his international, you know, shipping cars to Kuwait?
Yeah,
Like, what's
I
the
think
deal?
It was more late 70s to maybe like 81, 80. It was a good 5-6 years with what they dubbed the Empire Boulevard operation, where they were shipping cars to Kuwait and all that.
Eddie,
I was
massive. It was a
Kevin?
massive operation. I mean, they had a lot of guys working. That predates. I mean, that's after even Kevin would have been familiar with him.
well, in '74, I was taking stolen cars, Cadillacs, me and Chris, and we would dumping them off in Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Wait,
So
Chris Rosenberg from the DeMeo crew.
Yes, Chris,
Okay.
yeah. So he and I were stealing cars and taking them to a Sunoco gas station in Elizabeth, New Jersey, and this other side street next to it. So I think that those cars were going out as early as '74.
Interesting. Yeah, because Eddie, Eddie insight?
No. I mean, you know, I'm just familiar with the theft ring from that time, and obviously my dates are a little off.
Well, and then the other thing too, I don't know when I became aware of how to switch a VIN. I was switching VINs like you would take a license plate off a car and put it on another one. I mean, I was stealing cars. Like, you know, once I found out, because I was a hot rodder and I would blow the car up. I would, no matter what it was, I would be racing the piss out of it. Cops would be chasing me and I'd blow it up, take my drill out the 2 rivets, get my tag, get my license plate, and I was off to my next victim, you know? So tag jobs became popular for a time. And then people, it would be like what they called a kickback waiting to happen. Because there are so many hidden VIN numbers on a car. When you would when you sold a stolen car to somebody, that would always kick back to you, because back then they had no titles, they had just registration, and that was always, you know, hanging over your head. So then we started getting the idea is, you know, only let the guy have it for a week, get his address, and sell him the car, and then steal it back, take the VIN off of it, and then it goes back to the real owner, and the guy gets paid by the insurance company, and everybody's happy. And then there was a whole bunch of other scams that I started doing. Eddie, have you ever heard of Alabama?
No.
Alabama license plates?
No.
Let's see if one of these 2 guys here that's so smart with their computer can figure it out.
Well, listen.
Yeah, that's for people that live in Alabama. They have an Alabama license plate.
I'll just plead total ignorance.
Okay, no. This was so cool, and I learned this from a gypsy. Okay, so back in 73,
I believe it's referred to as traveling person. Kevin, please.
Well, no, that's what he was. He's told me I'm a gypsy, so that's what he was. I don't know. And I think they are from like Romania, someplace. Is that?
Yeah, Romania, Hungary.
Romania?
Yeah.
Okay.
The Romani gypsies.
But they were all hustlers. They had like the king of the gypsies, and I met that guy. So they told me, you know, because gypsies, what's a gypsy? A guy that travels all over the United States. He lives out of a bag. He lives out of his car. So I learned in 1973, when I first got out, about Andalusia probate judge, right? So the gypsy told me that all you got to do is call this number, and it's the probate judge of Andalusia, Alabama, and give him the VIN number, the make and model of the car, and then Western Union him $65. And then once he got the $65, he gave you the registration, which back then they had no titles. There were a lot of states didn't have no titles. So Alabama was not a title state back then. So they would send you the registration, they would send you the plate, and how could you tell if an Alabama plate was legit or not?
Right.
Easy. If it started off with 23, that means it was a mail away plate, but who knew, So we were stealing cars. And registering them in Alabama, flipping them into New York, and just sell it to all the stupid people from the bylines. We used to sell them. So, and then we came up with some elaborate ways to do. I came up with this idea. Okay, so with my legitimate car, I had a 67 Pontiac Le Mans. And let's say my VIN number was 12345, right? So I would call up the probate judge in Andalusia and say, okay, I want to register my 67 Pontiac Le Mans, VIN number 12346, right? I'd get the papers, flip them over to New York, and sell my legitimate car with one digit off on the VIN number. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So my car it's not even stolen. I would sell that to them, and I would always say, I can't give you the car right now. Give me your address, and I will come over and deliver the car with you because I can't give you the car now until I buy my next car. Fine. So I would go give the guy the keys to my car and let him have it for a week or two, come back with the spare key, start the car up and leave. Now, what is he going to do? He's going to call the police and say, my car, 67 Pontiac Le Mans, VIN number 12346, just got stolen. So that VIN number is entered in NCIC, but not mine. So I took my car back. I still have it.
Right.
And I'm going to end that story with a bada bing, bada boom.
So you're stealing
I'm not stealing anything. I'm not stealing anything. I'm letting this guy believe that he put the car 12346 VIN number, right? And I just take my car away. And even if he caught me, he couldn't even prove it's his car. It's my car. It's a legit.
That's beautiful.
Kevin, this might be a dumb question, but did you ever stop and think to use any of these wonderful talents of yours for like legitimate stuff back in the day? Like what's going on with you and car thief?
You know what? I could have been. I probably could have been anything, but I didn't. I suffered from dyslexia and ADD, and I went to Catholic school, and I just couldn't. The only thing that I was good at was math because I liked it, and everything else. The nuns used to beat me up because they thought I wasn't paying attention, and so I dropped out of school. Then I joined the Marine Corps at age 14, if you can believe that. I'm gonna do a video on that. I joined them. My mother and father broke up, so I told my mother I'm gonna live with my father. I told my father I'm gonna live with my mother, and then I joined the Marine Corps, and it wasn't easy because when I was 14 years old, I got shot in the eye with a BB gun, and it left me legally blind. So
really, to this day, even still.
Yeah. Well, actually, where the BB hit my eye was in the central vision, and it left a scar the size of a BB in front of my retina. And so, if I were to close my eye, I have that scar in my central vision. So all I have is blurred peripheral vision. So,
like a dot.
That dot, and I can't see through it.
Wow.
And so that was an obstacle. I assumed somebody's identity. I was 14. I was the second youngest to enlist in the United States Marine Corps, and it's since World War II. And but the hard part about it was not assuming somebody else's identity and going in the Marine Corps, but every time I would go to I went to this 4 recruiters in New York: Brooklyn, Queens, Bronx. I never went to Staten Island. So I would go in there, they give me my paperwork. I'd go to Fort Hamilton to get my physical, and I would fail. Boom, 3 Y, only under national emergency because of my eye, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then I figured, I'm not going to bore you guys with the rest of the story, but then I figured out, it took me a year to figure out the system, and I beat it. I beat the medical system in Fort Hamilton. I beat it, and I got in. And then what do you think happens? I get to the Marine Corps, and they make me shoot right-handed because the shell ejects from the right on an M14. And then, of course, I couldn't see shit. I couldn't hit nothing. So it was like, that was a pretty funny story, I think.
Oh man. So I just find it interesting that, you know, even though you guys were, you know, Eddie, you're about what, 10 years younger than Kevin?
Yeah.
That still your lives are somewhat intertwined with this whole chop shop culture of Astoria, Queens. Now, what have you been able to piece about your dad, Eddie? Like, what ever became of him in that business? Did he go far? Did he get in trouble?
He didn't stay far with it. He eventually, you know, got into carpentry work and did construction. He left the state. He was in Florida for a couple of decades. Got severely injured. Not sure exactly when he came back to New York, but in 2006, he died tragically by being hit by an Amtrak train in New Jersey.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Whoa. Well, I mean, do you know the circumstances of that? Like,
I think what happened was he got on the wrong train. All right. And he realizes he's in Jersey. So he thinks he could just jump across the tracks to the other side and get the train back in. But it's not the Long Island Railroad.
right.
The middle tracks are Amtrak express trains that are moving like bullet trains. So my sisters had to identify him through his tattoos.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry to hear that.
It was a very traumatic thing. Yeah.
Whoa.
But again, like I said, because I was so separated from him, the loss and the conflict wasn't as painful as it would have been if I was closer to him.
Right.
You know? And it's just the reality that I'll never have closure with him. So trying to understand him and learn from all these things are a goal for me at this point in my life.
Right.
It's as simple as that.
I can tell you that when he was doing the chase things with the body shop, it was a pretty cool life. I mean, and it was all the same. No matter if I went into one body shop and I started hanging out with the guys in the back fixing the cars, the owner, it was a camaraderie. I don't know if that's the right word, but it was all the same. Everybody, you know, just was all about making money and ripping everybody off. They wanted to rip off the poor guy that got his car picked up and got ripped. The things that they would do. I mean, you know, it was all about the hustle.
Yeah, no and my dad was talented.
Or no matter what, and everybody knew everybody. And you know why, Eddie? Everybody knew everybody. Because when that traffic accident went over the air, I don't know, 1060, whatever the code was, 10 whatever it was, everybody wound up going there, and so you all meet each other. So if you get there late, you still hung out and you helped
the bullshit and gabbed,
and you're all shooting the shit. So everybody that had a body shop with a chase truck knew each other. They knew what kind of work you did. They you know, and that was one of the selling points that they used to do. Oh, okay, 1050. What is it? 1053.
It's a super cool subculture. Yo, Crime Spot. Have you ever done any videos on these? Have you ever been able to piece anything out on the whole chop shop culture, body shop culture?
It's funny you mention that. I did a video. I did a video profiling two Gambino soldiers who were big in the junkyard industry, and I actually visited where that junkyard was on Fountain Avenue.
We
That's
used to
John.
race. We used to
John
race
and
in Fountain Avenue. We used
right.
to.
It's about a mile, well, a little under a mile from the Fountain Avenue dump where there used to be races in Canarsie. It was called Fountain Auto Parts, and then it was called Citywide Auto, something like that. Well, it was a shop run by the Carniglia family, which was John Carniglia, Charles Carniglia, their mother and their father. They were Gambino guys. Charles Carniglia being one of the shooters of Castellano and Tommy Bellotti. So they had that
apparently
junkyard
John
there.
was the one that put the bullet in Paul.
Right, you're right. They say he's actually
Charlie was the nut job that would liquefy bodies with acid.
Yeah, his brother Charles would. That's most likely what happened to Gotti's neighbor John Favara. He got in a barrel of acid. Yeah, Charles Carniglia. And they were doing this and dissolving bodies on the property on Fountain Avenue, which, as far as I know, is still owned by the family. And I visited Paul Vario's old junkyard. Was called Fountain Auto Parts. If you watch Goodfellas, that's Paul Sorvino's character. And it's the spot where they actually bugged his trailer back in 72 or 73. Eugene Gold was like a big prosecutor, district attorney, whatever.
He was the DA.
So, there's other auto theft rings that I'm looking into related to actually the Carniglia brothers. So I'm going to be working on a video about that soon.
Cool. And everybody should definitely be checking out NYC Crime Spot. I mean, this guy's amazing.
I'm trying to find like the oldest ones, like from the 60s and 50s. I came across a couple of good auto theft rings that lead into, those guys.
You know what, Brett? I think we should talk about our boy Santucci. That guy was a character. When tag jobs started becoming really popular in 70, 71, they were really popular. The hardest part is, where do you get the papers, the registration and the VIN numbers? And that was John Santucci. And not John Santucci, that's the DA. It's the same name. Yeah. Santucci's.
Was it Sambucci or Santucci?
Oh, Sambucci.
Now, hold on. You got me all hot and bothered. Bringing up Santucci.
Yeah. That's why I love Brett. Right. He always keeps me straight. I get mixed up. Brett, tell everybody, am I bad with names or what? I can't. So
he looks like Trump, but he acts like Biden. That's kind of what's going
on. No. Don't Biden me. I eat that fucking. Always, everybody out there, always vote for the guy in the next presidential race that looks like me. There you go. Never Biden. In California, I'm paying $6 a gallon for a gas between Biden and Newsom. Don't get me started with that. But anyway. What was I saying? What the hell was I saying about the?
So you were talking about Sambucci
brothers.
It's Sambucci junkyard. That guy is where we used to always get late model papers. This is before the insurance companies came out with the bright idea that if we pay off a claim and the car is totaled, we take it. We put it on the record that it's junk. It's gone. It can't be rebuilt. So that was before that. This is before titles came around for New York State.
It just seems to me, getting back to, sorry to interrupt you, Kevin, but it seems to me for how freaking easy it was to be a criminal back then, given the fact that there were no titles, there were no computers, there was no surveillance.
Yeah, everything was paperwork, so it was easily forged, easily doctored. It
must have been a blast. I mean, I'm just gonna.
You know what? If there was more time in a day, that you could become a millionaire, and that's a millionaire in 1970 money. There wasn't enough time in the day to steal the car, to tag the car. Then you have to run an ad in the paper to sell the car, and it was time consuming. Mm-hmm. The easiest part was getting the car. And that's what I went to Sam. What's his name again now?
Sambucci.
And he was a character. Let me tell you about Sambucci. I don't know if it's his. I think it was his left hand. He he had a deformed left hand. It was like it was a little. It was about 10 inches too short from the regular arm, and he would always pull out he would always have, and he was a little old guy, dirty. He always showed up with the same uniform. You could catch him going into opening the doors, those big steel doors, early in the morning, and he was just as dirty as he was at the end of the day. He had the same stains. He smelled of rear. I don't know if anybody, rear end grease has a certain smell to it. You know, it's pungent. It's like a greasy, dirty grease. And that guy stunk of that all the time. But he would always take his little hand and go, and he would pay.
Is that him, Kevin?
That's him?
Where is he? Let me see. No, that's not him.
That must be his son. This is Daniel Sambucci.
Oh, yeah, that's got to be his son. His father had a little guy with the.
So guys, I want to move along just a little bit here because today's topic title of the show is From Chop Shops to Rifkin, and of course we could probably talk about chop shops forever, but I want to pivot on to the whole crazy, again, 6 degrees of separation between Eddie and Kevin here with this character of Joel Rifkin. Now, please, somebody, Eddie, why don't you tell the audience first who this guy was, Joel Rifkin, and then we'll get into the stories.
Joel Rifkin was a schlub from Nassau County. And, you know, one of those guys that got bullied in school, you know, wasn't good with the chicks, didn't have game, was a landscaper, lived with his parents. And eventually, what started happening, he started paying for his companionship with girls.
I like the way you put it. With this companionship with girls.
You know, and from that point on, he started killing them. I think the first accident started with anger and rage over something, and then he wound up with a dead girl in his house, and this transpired and was a domino effect where the man became a serial killer, and he killed a handful of girls from down on the Lower East Side that were tied into the punk rock scene.
Now, were they tied into the punk rock scene and also prostituting themselves? Is that how they came across him?
Yeah.
And so real quick before we get into your stories, Eddie, Kevin, what's add to that a little bit with your recollections, and then we'll get into Eddie's recollections.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Working with who's that with the DEA, I think. No, it might have been Manhattan DA's office going. I wound up doing buy-up cases in Alphabet City.
Doing what cases?
Buy-ups. So you start off low level buys, and you work yourself up.
Now you're talking about drugs.
Drugs. Crack cocaine was the drug of choice in 1992 is when I was there, 1992. And every single bodega in Alphabet City was selling crack. Every one of them. And I think you just walk into any bodega, and if they liked the way you looked, or they knew you, or they knew they would sell you the rock cocaine just like they would a pack of cigarettes or anything else in a bodega. So I think I was working with TNT NYPD. I don't know. I don't remember. So I wound up meeting this girl named Mary Catherine Williams, which turned out to be Joel Rifkin's 17th victim. And her and I dated, and then she got so out of her mind with that crack cocaine. There was this happened at 439 East 9th Street. And on 10th Street and First Avenue, what is that, NYU over there?
I'm not sure.
That became a prostitute stroll in the evening hours. Once the sun went down, every crackhead from Alphabet City would go there, turn a trick, get money for crack.
Now, where'd you say that was? East 10th Street and what?
East 10th Street, First Avenue.
Okay.
It's NYU, correct? Is
Yeah,
that
it's
what
a little below East Side. It's East Village. You know,
Well,
you're
I
a
think
block away from LES.
yeah, it's right. I think it's a dorm where all the students live over there on First Avenue and 10th Street, East 10th Street.
But this is a place, even before Ripken, this is a place where Dee Ramone's love of his life was a prostitute in the late 70s, too. This stroll went on for a good 15, 20 years. And a lot of punk rock girls wound up being the girls tricking over there. It was crazy.
On 10th Street you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
That's it right there. Boom. So, but it didn't look like, most strolls in New York City are in commercial areas where there's no people. I mean, that's right in the,
right.
Every other
like
block.
West 28th Street by Tunnel.
And then the other spot was down by at the very end of like on First Street, where was it? Katz, the deli over there.
Yeah,
Houston.
That was a bad one. They had a lot of pimps there. The girls that went to 10th Street, they were pimpless, if you will. They were just crackheads that were just going out, doing a quick 20-minute date and getting their $20 and that they were off. But what was I saying? So anyway, I met this girl and she got strung out on crack cocaine. I still started working out of that building there. And it's a big story, so I'd rather, not get into it. But anyway, I wound up, I knew Joel Rifkin from coming and going in that building. If you can pull up a picture of 439 East 9th Street, you'll see on both sides of the building, there's storefronts, okay? And in the center is the doorway that leads up to the 5-story apartment building. So the owner at the time, guy by the name of Joe Leo, would rent out he made these 2 storefronts into like a little apartments. Each one of them had a bathroom. And he would have the girls do their tricks there. And that's where I met Joel Rifkin. That's where I stopped Joel Rifkin from killing Mary Catherine Williams. And
wait, hold on. You can't just say that and then move on.
But I don't want this to be about me. I'd rather be talking about. I mean, all of these things are on my channel. I mean, if you want me to continue,
Could I chime in real quick?
Yeah, of course.
I mean, of course, Kevin, you could finish the story, but I just don't want Kevin to forget to mention this. So there's an article from 1993 Daily News shortly after Rifkin is arrested. In that article, Kevin Maher's name is actually in there where they out him as a confidential informant. Yeah. Later on, within a year, Kevin ends up on Maury Povich. So if you go to his channel, you'll see Kevin on Maury Povich talking about Joel Rifkin in like 93 or 94, whenever that was, from Kevin, and going over basically what happened with the situation. And
all right,
like so many things Kevin tells me, I looked them up and they end up being true. It's ridiculous.
Right, exactly. So, all right, yeah, and let's do that because I don't want to rehash history here. So you actually met this guy. You actually saw this guy in the flesh.
I knocked him out. I damn near knocked him out. TKO. I knocked him right out.
Oh my God.
I knocked him out in that apartment. So if you look at the if you look at the building, the front of the
Which
building.
building is it now? This one here?
439. Like if you can zoom in a little bit.
This is 437. So this is 439 right here with the psychic.
Yeah, no, now it's a barbershop. It's I was just there last year. I did.
Here's 437. Oh, it would be over here. Barbershop right here.
Right there. There
Neighborhood
it is.
barber.
So okay, shop. That was Mary Catherine's a little apartment. He turned into an apartment. He had a steel door, a steel window thing that came down, and then the other side, another one, a doorway that goes up into the building. Right, and I'm in. Anyway, I don't even know what. I don't want to really get friggin' story, but it's so. Anyway, it turned out our boy Joel Rifkin did not act alone, and I don't know if you guys know what a snuff film is or not, but there were snuff films being made in that house, in those apartments, and I saw the blood stains, and I mean, it was horrific.
Holy shit!
I mean, this story will just absolutely blow your mind. The things that
Kevin, mention that guy's
happened.
name that you mentioned. Who I looked into a little bit, but I don't.
Okay, so there was a black guy that would be buddies with the building's owner. His name was Joel Leo. I don't know if you can type him in and figure out what he was. Joel Leo. There was a black guy by the name of Peter Bradley that lived with a girl in upstate New York. Now that's very important. Upstate New York. He would bring a bunch of girls, and they would have crack parties over there, orgies, the whole 9 yards. And so I know that Joel Rifkin and Peter Bradley were like this, you know, they were very tight. And so I don't even, this blows my mind to go back into this. So when I was at that residence, I was working undercover for the DEA. I was undercover working for the DEA and Suffolk County Prosecutor's Office out in Long Island. And one day I was in the other storefront on the right side, if you're looking at the building, and I'm with a girl. And I hear a blood-curdling scream coming from Mary Catherine, who was also known as Kelly. So I had to stop what I'm doing, and you know that pissed me off. I had to stop what I'm doing, get up, and banged on the door. Boom, boom, boom. Now, when you walk into the middle door, which gives you access to the apartment building, on both sides, left and right, there would be a door, an entranceway into the stores, right? So I'm banging on that door, and I'm pissed off. And who answers? Joel Rifkin, wearing his glasses. And he cracks the door in a way that I can see just about the whole apartment, because it's just one room. And I don't see Kelly. So where's Kelly? She has to be behind that fucking door, right? So I go, hey, what's going on? He just, calm down, calm down. Well, the last thing you want to do is tell an Irishman to calm down after he got to stop what he did and have some creep four-wheel fucking four-eyed goofy, but he was a big guy. So,
Yeah.
you know, he was stupid, but that fucker was like 6'2". So I went, what? And I hit him an unconventional punch, because he only had the door open like maybe this much. And so I my first punch was bang, I hit him right in the chin, boom. He went back, and then I hit him another right, and he went right on his ass, and his glasses flew off. So his glasses flew up. Now I turn, and I see Mary Catherine Williams, which was the only place she could be that I could see her, was right behind the door. Naked from the waist down. Her lips were purple.
Oh.
Her face was white. He was fucking choking.
Yeah, it's starting to choke.
So I go, what the fuck? You know, you got to imagine me just coming with this beautiful girl, like just so beautiful that you can't. Her name was Alicia Whittington. That's who she was. And now I'm in within 1 second, I'm in a fight, and not much of a fight. It wasn't a fight. I just hit him. He just laid down, sat down. And now I'm looking at her, and I'm going, oh shit, what happened? What happened? And she regains her composure. And he says, no, when I say what happened, he says, oh, she just took a big hit of crack. She'll be okay. I said, what the fuck would happen? And you know, he tried to kill me. He tried to kill. So I snatched that fucker, pulled him out. Now I'm in the hallway, and I kicked him in the ass right out the door, right onto the street. Boom, gone. So now I'm giving her water. I'm saying, listen, girlfriend, you gotta stop this shit. You know, you're zooking. She was all cracked up. And so I calmed her down. And I said, okay, just, I wanted to get back to my business over there. So I leave her, and I'm getting busy again. Now, when you open the first door from the street, you're in another little hallway with another door. It gives you access to the bells, and you ring the bell, and then they can buzz you in. So back over to the other store, front thing, and they hear because don't forget, I knocked his glasses off, and this prick can't drive. He needs his glasses to drive. So now I'm really fucking, my name things sticking out of my fucking head, and then I hear bang, and she buzzed him in. So I go, must be that prick again. So I come out, and sure enough, there he is again. So now I'm charging the guy. I'm coming at the fight, and he goes, no. He didn't want no more of me. No. I need my glasses. Just give me my glasses. Give him his glasses. Give me the glasses. And she had the glasses, and I went to take the friggin' eyeglasses from her, and she went, no, because don't forget, now she's zooking. This is like 10 minutes later. She wants another hit. She wants to suck that glass thick. So now, and I'm just like so blown away. There are very few things that can shock me because I've seen it all, or so I thought. So I saw this girl moments earlier with a purple friggin' lips and white, I says, give me the glasses. And she goes right around me. Now I got her door open. She goes right around me, and she goes off with him again. Never to be seen again.
Holy
Her
shit.
body was recovered in Yorktown Heights, New York. And guess where Peter Brantley lived?
Yorktown Heights.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who's Peter Brantley?
That's the second guy that I believe was involved with Joel Rifkin and snuff films.
This is crazy shit.
It's like beyond crazy. So now I wind up in the New York State Police barracks out on Long Island after Rifkin gets locked up. He had the body of Tiffany Brashiel in his pickup truck with no license plates, and he gets locked up, and so now I get involved, and now I have so many people. I have had Jim Jardy, who was a detective investigator on Suffolk County, ex-New York City detective, Tom Harkins. I got the FBI. I have all these people that are with me that go to this meeting that I didn't know they were trying to set me up, the state police. They're animals. So I go to the barracks, and I walk in, and the next thing I know, they go, okay, go into this room here. So I go into this room with a two-way mirror and a polygraph machine. I go, whoa, wait, put the fucking brakes on, bro. I'm not taking, when did I agree to do this? So they were assholes. They got Joel Rifkin to confess to 17 murders. Mary Catherine was the 17th, but he didn't get to tell the whole story before his lawyer came in. And now I'm telling them about this guy, Peter Brantley. I'm telling him about a bed that I walked into the bedroom, had 4 posts on it. There were them clamp-on cheap lights, and there was a pool of blood at the top of the headboard. Big pool of blood. I mean, saturated. So you put that together with all the sex that's going on there. And then when I asked Peter Bradley and the other guy, Joe Leo, what happened over here? Oh, one of the girls just had her period. Well, what's wrong with that story? You don't have your period at the top of the bed, and
right.
There's all the blood trails. Something. I mean, just use tech. Anyway, so now because bad girls get what they deserve. When I was down there, I was there for 9 hours telling them stories. There was like 12 New York State investigators. And I'm telling them the story, and they're not wanting to hear. And then one of them goes to me, well, and I said, listen, this guy's been linked to more like not 17. The real number is 40. And I said, this is like really effed up. And one detective goes to me, well, you know what? And I got his name. I did a video on him. I put him in there. He says, you know what, Kevin? bad girls get what they deserve. Fucking are you?
I would go shit. I
What?
would go crazy if someone
Well,
said
I
that.
couldn't believe my ears. Either could my other four friends believe it anyway.
Now-
So anyway, I'm telling them there's more to this than meets the story. They didn't care because of who the victims were. They didn't care. They didn't want to investigate Peter Bradley. So what do you think they do? I get to be asked to be on the talk show, Maury Povich show. So I go on the talk show as just being Mary Catherine Williams' boyfriend. Nothing more, nothing about a CI. They went to the New York Daily News, right? Brett pulled this up. And they said that they cautioned that Kevin Maher is a paid confidential informant for the Suffolk County District Attorney's Office. What law enforcement agency would ever do that to another? But they did it. They put it in print. They put it in print. They published it. Meanwhile, I'm working a 5-kilo deal for Suffolk County out of that house.
That's
so
insane.
They actually blew me away. If you could pull up that friggin' newspaper clipping, what they said. They said that I was a current fucking. I mean, I could have got killed if I didn't read that paper or somebody else didn't read it. You know, I would have been killed.
I don't have the article up, but I'll find it and put it on my Twitter. Now I have 2 questions, and then I want to get to Eddie on the Rifkin story. You mentioned that they walked you into some room where there was a polygraph machine and a two-way mirror. Why were they trying to set you up? I don't understand.
Well, first of all, if you know anything about a polygraph, it's not the machine that does the work. It's the operator. How the questions are posed. You know, I knew right away that first of all, if you like, I had to take a polygraph once for that detective. What was his name again? The Italian guy that we just did a video, Brett.
Something with a C.
Yeah, it's the one that where the detective killed the guy in his driveway. So I wound up having to take a polygraph on that. I had to go down to One Police Plaza. They're telling me, listen, would you agree to have a polygraph? I said yes. So, you know, I took my polygraph. I passed. This was a case where they had God knows how many people behind that friggin' two-way mirror and a polygraph, and it's being administered by one of those assholes detectives. That's that's who the examiner was. So I went, whoa, wait a minute. So he could just say, you're lying, and what the fuck? Now they start talking to me. Did I ever get in Joel Rifkin's car? Was I ever in his house? Whatever. And all the questions were all accusatory by nature.
Right.
So I know better. Now my friends are pulling me aside and they're going, you know what? You better not say nothing. Right. I don't like the way these guys are talking to you. You better. I said, I don't give a shit. I was never in that fucking car, and so on. So,
Crime Spot.
Can I just show the article?
If you want to email it to me, that'd be the best thing, and that way I can get it up on the screen
right now.
Yeah. Or put.
But let me stop right here. Yeah. This is unheard of. Wait a second. Can you imagine being a police officer, a real cop, and having another law enforcement agency, cops, go into the New York Daily News, the biggest newspaper in New York and probably in the country, and blurt it out that he's working for you? Are you kidding me?
That's insane.
Unbelievable. They tried to kill me.
No question.
New York State Police tried to kill me.
That's absolutely crazy. Now the second question that I have, and
unbelievable is what it is, Manny. Manny, for all you cops out there and lawyers, what I just said is unbelievable. But it's me, so it's true. It's a true story, and it's backed up by newspapers.
Here we go. Here we go. Victim's pal socked Joel. Says he halted sleigh try. So that's it right there. So this is from the Daily News, right?
No, keep reading what the New York State Police said about me in that article.
Where would I find it?
It said they cautioned that the paid confidential informant from Suffolk County could be embellishing part of his story to gain notoriety.
Here we go.
Well, you idiot. What do you mean gain notoriety? I'm an undercover fucking informant. Why would I need this? And here they go, question credibility. So you're going to question my credibility, but the FBI, the DEA, they don't question my credibility. When I go to court and I point my finger to somebody, they're going to go to fucking prison for the rest of their life. So where's the credit issue? Just because I'm a paid informant, that's a credibility issue?
That's insane.
They didn't say he lied to us. I was there 9.5 fucking hours. They didn't say we caught him in a lie. They didn't. We question his credibility because he's a paid confidential informant. And the fact is, I made more money on one case than they did in a fucking year. Okay, that's why they didn't like me.
So Kevin, we're
don't get me started.
I feel like we got you started here.
Eddie, now you got me on Joel Rifkin. I didn't even want to go there. I wanted to talk to Eddie about the old days in Astoria and the chop shops and Astoria.
We got that now.
Bada boom! What the fuck are you doing to me?
Now hold on.
Got a headache.
Kevin.
Yes.
Pipe down for a second.
Jesus, you got me started.
We got him started.
This guy was so worried about me not being talking enough. That's what he said.
Oh,
off camera.
No one's ever worried about that.
No one's ever worried about that. Kevin, one last question, and you're gonna have to answer this briefly because I want to get to Eddie on this.
Yeah, that's what I want to get to his legacy and everything.
This stuff that you're talking about with the snuff films and the part of a group that did this, was that ever investigated and followed up on, or
there was
is
a
this?
Detective. There was, let me tell you something about snuff films real quick. They passed a law in 1947 or 1948. If you were in possession, if you took part of in a snuff film, in possession of a snuff film, distributing a snuff film, it's a felony. From 1948, when that penal code was enacted into New York state law, to 1993, no one has ever been arrested, no one has ever been indicted, no one has ever been convicted on that law. There was a detective from Brooklyn. I forget how I met him. He took me seriously, and he went to my house. I was living in New Jersey at the time. He came all the way out to New Jersey from Brooklyn, and we started talking. And he was going, and then all of a sudden, he says, "I can't talk to you. I've been taken off. I can't work this case." I don't know what happened. I don't know if there was politics, but he really seemed genuine. He was a real New York City detective. This guy, a real cop. And
all I need to say to the audience is, Son of Sam fans, we got a snuff film to investigate. But Eddie, so this is another one of these 6 degrees of separations that you have with Kevin here. What's your Rifkin connection?
Well, my connection is a couple of the guys that I knew whose girlfriends were victims.
They went missing. They went missing, right? They just disappeared.
Yeah, Elizabeth disappeared. Now
who was she?
She was a bass player's girlfriend. After he broke up with her, she turned out over there, and she disappeared. And he spent a lot of time trying to get the answers. And I think over time it was confirmed that she was one of Joel's victims. But again, like Kevin's saying, the number's higher.
It's 40. It's 40.
So there's a lot of them that he got away with, or they got him away for life. So what's one more prostitute?
Right.
Bad girls get what they deserve. That's what New York State Police said. Those Nazis. That's what they told me to my face. Yeah. And his guy's name was Donovan or something. I got the report. I got the report of my statement. I got his name. I put his name right up there now.
I just want to add some context before you continue, because both of you guys agree that the body count is a lot higher.
Yes.
His supposed first killing in 89 was a woman by the name of Heidi Balch. Now, he had just known her by the name, I believe, Judy or some, street name she was using, but she wasn't identified as Heidi Balch until I think 2013 or 14. They finally identified her.
Well,
and figured out she left her head on a golf course in Jersey.
Yes.
Right. That was the first one.
Yeah.
So that just goes to show you it took how many years to even identify. So God knows how many of those unidentified women are out there. Just
Is it
wanted to add that for context.
is it possible that he's the Gilgo Beach killer?
Well, I
No,
thought
well,
so
it's not
too.
possible. I don't think because of the times that
Right,
those
right.
women were killed. And also he said, "Hey, it's not me."
Right, Eddie.
It's later.
That's later?
Gilgo's later. Those girls were, tricking well later
digitally.
than Rifkin being locked up for good. So it's
Okay.
somebody else.
Well,
But-
that guy was getting these girls' names out of a magazine or something, and one of them came as far as New Jersey. All the
Right, and
up
I
to,
think Craigslist as well.
Craigslist, yeah,
with some of that stuff. I mean, that's another rabbit hole. I mean, geez, I just spent 2 years on Son of Sam, and I'm just starting to get back into it. It's just never ending. But now you got me thinking about this Rifkin thing, man.
Oh, it's deeper than that. I mean, I don't want to spend the whole time, but it's so deeper than that. I mean, when the police, I can't emphasize this enough. I wish I had special effects with freaking fireworks going off, boom, or the atomic bomb blowing up. I can't emphasize enough how badly they wanted to stop me from talking. How badly than to give the New York Daily News, telling them who I really am when I was under an active drug case down there in Alphabet City. How much did you think I pissed those guys off?
Well, what it's telling me is that
because I knew too many other law enforcement agencies. They couldn't control me.
They didn't want to stay on that detail. They didn't want to
weren't.
investigate girls that were prostitutes.
They didn't give a shit about them. Suppose one of their daughters wound up on a street.
But what if it was? Hold on. But what if it was deeper than that? What if these guys wanted to cover up this ring that you're talking about? This snuff film.
I'm thinking, why did they not investigate Peter Bradley? Why? And this is all in my book. In my book, the author only gave his initials, PB. But I'm telling you who the guy's name is. And then all of a sudden, Mary Catherine Williams gets found up in Yorktown Heights, New York, and he lives there. And she went missing in whatchamacallit, in downtown on 9th Street. That's where the last time I saw her, she went off with him.
That's crazy. And now I gotta study this more. So listen, guys. So we're getting on an hour and a half. I want to sort of wrap things up because I like to keep things a little shorter now. But clearly there's a million more things to talk about. Now, Eddie, you and I are definitely going to be going down the true crime road for sure. Possibly in a walk and talk on the Lower East Side, but definitely in a couple more live streams. So we're looking forward to that. Of course, Kevin, this was amazing. I can't believe.
Take Eddie to the Eddie. Yeah. How many apartments? Were you ever in an apartment on 9th Street?
Not on 9th. I was living on 3rd Street. During the mid 80s, I was between 1st and 2nd Avenue. And around 91, 92, I was on 3rd Street between.
So me and you were down there at the same time. That's what I wanted to really get into, where we
Manny,
were.
could I just say something real quick?
Astoria. And did you ever go to Astoria Park or connect?
Well, yeah, and that's why, that whole car thing, the phenomena of hanging out down at Astoria Park and everything else.
That's where all the chase trucks would hang out, waiting for that. I think it's a 1053. One of the viewers put it down. It's 1053. That's the thing. And I'm getting blocked again. This fucking thing it blocks my face.
That's crazy.
I just wanted to. I really want if we got like 5 minutes.
Of course.
Or something, man. Because I really want Eddie to tell the story. I mean, I'll provide a little bit of a backdrop because he really hasn't his Rifkin connection. I mean, I don't think he's really gotten into it. The last victim of Rifkin, Tiffany Bresciani, which was a body that he had in his house for 3 days.
Wait, are you talking about Eddie or Kevin?
No, Eddie.
Okay.
Which is a body that he had in his possession for a few days, and a body which his mother actually drove with in the car to the supermarket. Somehow not knowing that this rotting body is in her. So ultimately he goes to get rid of the body. He gets pulled over by the Nassau County Courthouse in a bit of a police chase because he has no license plate. That's when he gets caught. However, Tiffany Bresciani is the boyfriend of Dave Rubenstein, also known as Urgent, lead singer of Reagan Youth, influential punk band from the Lower East Side. And this is Eddie's friend. This is Eddie's, this is his time. So I really would like to hear about, Dave Insurgent, Reagan Youth, and Tiffany Bresciani, because I knew you knew these people, Eddie.
This is amazing.
Like
Thanks,
the Jewish
Forest Hills High School graduate, Dave Rubenstein.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay,
let's let Eddie talk. Smart kid, and he was going to NYU when he got involved in the punk rock scene. But he was more of a hippie, a dread hippie. But he got involved with the hardcore scene. He was an incredibly charismatic singer and frontman for this band, Reagan Youth. And even though the music scene started changing around 84 or 85 with my band, and more of a metal sound started kicking in, Dave got involved into drugs. So by the time that he was going out with Tiffany, he was strung out. He owed money on the streets to a lot of the dealers. He was put in the hospital with, getting hit in the head with a baseball bat. And then now all of a sudden, his girl's missing, and she ended up found in Joel's car. It was very traumatic, very overwhelming for him. And he wound up committing suicide and overdosing over all of that because
holy shit.
So you can see here that, these girls had loved ones. The extension goes out. They're not throwaways. So this bastard had ripped up a lot of people's lives. And there's a lot more to this story than just these girls who were wayward, dope fiends or crack addicts turning tricks, man. And this is why serial killers take advantage of street girls, because they are forgotten.
Nobody, right. I met Tiffany Brasciali's mother. The set of I was on TV with her, and she was so lost. She was in denial about her daughter's drug addiction. And you know what? Let me just say another little thing about this, how those cops acted towards those girls. I did work a homicide in Manhattan that was the Ronald Schofield homicide. Where he murdered a prostitute on 42nd Street over there. And guess who that prostitute's father was? Take a guess. He was a Maryland State Trooper's daughter. So wow. This can I don't know how you could be a cop and not realize that this could be their only mistake was when they first tried that drug. They didn't know that it would take them to stroll. They didn't know it would take them to Snuffville. They didn't know. And for these cops to look me in the face, that cop said, well, after all, bad girl. He was downplaying it. I'm trying to say there's a lot of murders that could have happened. And who knows what's going on. They didn't want to hear it.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that Dave Rubenstein, Dave Insurgent of Reagan Youth, I'm pretty sure that he would say that he had known Rifkin. He was familiar to him because, like many of, a handful of Rifkin's victims were repeat customers. They had been with him.
Some of them
had already slept with some of these women, and he was familiar with them, so they trusted him.
Yeah, well, some of them he didn't kill. He didn't kill all of them. There was some girls that came forward that said, I went out with him. I don't know how he didn't kill me. Yeah.
Now, you see, I had girlfriends that were strippers. So, at times I would go to the club and hang out, while they're doing their routine and shit that.
Hey, I can one up you. My ex-wife was a stripper, and she wound up being the star of the hit TV show Real Housewives of New Jersey. Daniel Staub. What the?
But the sad thing, man, Dave is smart, articulate, and this spiral and this addiction that him and Tiffany got caught up with, we're just trying to find ways to survive. Obviously, he wasn't in school. He wasn't studying anymore. Addiction destroyed his life and destroyed her life. You know, this dude was one of the most charismatic and magnetic frontmen of the early hardcore bands. And I'm talking in that 81, 82 period, man.
Mhm.
Like I said, I called him the Jewish HR, like of the Bad Brains, you know. And it's just a tragedy, man.
Yeah,
You know,
because you could just see how this guy's actions then, it's
You know,
like you guys say, it's not just a
even my
faceless
own
person.
addiction, led me down roads of committing crime and becoming, a documented felon.
Mhm.
You know,
what'd you call yourself? A
a documented felon.
Did that come with? Hey, did that come with a certificate?
It's embossed. It's actually embossed.
Put it on my wall. Where's mine?
I got the blue ribbon and everything.
This guy, I love this guy. He comes out of the. Hey, I was a documented felon.
Well, I pled guilty to a felony, is what I'm saying. I never went to trial. So I mean, I'm documented, and I am a felon. You know what I mean? And what I'm saying here is, I could have made the wrong mistake. I could have gone down the wrong road one night, and I could have ended up with a bullet in my head with all the dumb shit that I was doing.
You know what? Let me tell you something. I've been with a lot of those girls down there. I knew them. It was part of my job. I even, I'm not going to lie. Did I ever have sex with them? I'm not going to lie. Of course. I mean, so it was all part of what I did, or I used that as an excuse. But some of these girls a lot of them were from out of town, and they wanted to be actresses and things like that. Kelly was a bona fide card-carrying SAG member. She was in several movies. She was actually a beautiful girl. Came from a great family. Father was a dentist. That's how she got identified, by his dental records.
Oh my God.
And just a good people that made a big choice. And the way those cops acted, and just let that guy get away with murdering our children. Yeah, I mean, there's somebody's baby. I just couldn't believe the when he told me that bad girls get what they deserve. They deserve to be choked and murdered and chopped up in a wheelbarrow and thrown around the tri-state area. Are you kidding me?
That's insane. And now you got me obsessed with this whole other alternative theory. So thanks a lot, Kevin.
Sorry.
Well, these guys, see the worst in humanity as well. And I think it's necessary for them to have a coldness to it, because they don't want it to settle into their brains too.
Eddie, we're not talking about the perp. We're talking about the victim. They are a victim.
Oh, no question.
They were a victim. There was somebody's baby. Somebody once had that little baby. Are you?
No, I'm talking. I'm talking about the cops that seem detached to all of this.
I can see Eddie's point, because after a while, it's like you've seen the absolute worst of the worst. It's probably just like you do that in order to put a shell over yourself in a way. It might not be good, but I can understand what Eddie's saying for sure.
Yeah, that's really the point I'm getting at. They don't see it in the perspective that we're looking at it as, and they have to sit there. They have to look at the morgue and crime scene photos and everything else, and they see the bodies and they can't get that out of their head. So the only way to do it is try to shut the window down and block it out. Not saying it's right though. Definitely not.
Right. That's what they, and then look what they did to me. Look what they did to me. So I guess look what they did to me.
No, burning you is totally wrong. You don't publish that shit. That's just.
But they did.
I know.
They did that. I've had a lot of unbelievable things happen to me in my life, and that one ranks way up there.
No, it's unconscionable, man. That's unconscionable.
There has to be a
code that shouldn't be.
For them to give the New York Daily News that information, New York Daily News printed it. I was even going to sue the both of them, but I didn't, because my friend told me not to.
There has to be a deeper reason there. And
tell me what it is. They didn't want to allow. Well, I always thought for years that it was because that Peter Bradley was a confidential informant. And that's why they just steered me away from him. I always thought this guy is a CI. What kind of case is he working?
He's more important.
Right. Exactly, Eddie. Yeah. He was bigger on the totem pole than you were.
That's what I'm thinking. See, Eddie, he's a street guy. He knows what time of day it is.
I'm also thinking, too, I lost a train of thought here.
We're talking about the cop burning me and
the cop burning him, and
yeah, I'm figuring like because you encountered Rifkin and you knocked him out, like it was almost like they're trying to put the same brush on you, and that's why they didn't give a damn about burning you as a CI.
Imagine if I would have took that stupid. That this detective comes in, and this was 1993, I think it was. He comes into the barracks in his 3-piece suit that was outdated by 20 friggin' years. Who was it? And he came in all thinking of who he is with his sunglasses, like I said, who's this fucking guy? And that wound up being the polygraph examiner. Like, you think I'm gonna have him hook me up to that machine gun and then tell me, oh yeah, you lied up? Fuck you, man.
Yeah,
you stupid. They were just so stupid. And I'm not going to say all of them were stupid. There was 3 or 4 of them over the 9.5 hours. Can you imagine? I was 9.5 hours in their squad room, and we were ordering pizza. And then towards the end, a lot of the guys, they liked me. They knew I wasn't. They knew. They knew, but I don't know if it came higher up.
Yeah. Well, another thing they did. For those that don't know, when they had Rifkin, when they actually arrested him, he wasn't like, obviously there was a body in his truck, so there was no hiding, but he wasn't being coy about anything. He immediately started telling them, how many times did you do this? I don't know. I killed at least 17. I killed this one. I killed that one. He immediately started telling them. They didn't even think to record it. None of this is on record.
Well, that's
because going through the details of 17 homicides. Actually, the newspaper came out that week. Man, admits to 17 homicides. They never recorded any of it. They were just like sitting there like a bunch of fucking dopes.
You can't do that. You have to listen. Back then, even if they didn't have a video set up, everything should be on a tape.
Right.
The whole thing should have been taped. He should have been read his rights on tape. And then, do you want to talk? And then go for it. They didn't do that because they kept him up a whole day. They wouldn't let him make a phone call. And another thing, they wouldn't let him make a phone call. They wouldn't give him the phone. So, I mean, they were just the most unbelievable cops I've ever come across in my life on both sides of the fence. They were bizarro.
Well, my man Book Club, who I've done several shows with and who I go way back with, he was a cop in the 52nd precinct, recently retired. And I think he's right. Just because they're detectives doesn't mean they're worthy of the title. Politics comes into play many of the time.
Well, I'm gonna say something about New York City detectives. I worked with hundreds of them. And they are the greatest detectives in the world. They're smart. They're compassionate. They know how to treat people. They know how to get the results. They are the greatest detectives in the world. Bar none. They're from New York City. They know what time of day it is. They know how to treat people, how to talk to people, how to get what they want. And that's what makes them the greatest detectives in the world. Then I went out to I forget where I was in the Long Island barracks out there, and they were the worst detectives in the world. I'm used to working with the best. Now I'm working with these guys.
Right.
I think in the 5 boroughs, you look at the multi-ethnicity, the multi-languages, the multi-cultures. You have to be able to have a skill to reach that common ground with anybody from somebody from somewhere.
Do you think any of these detectives from New York State could ever go into any one of the 5 boroughs? And I don't know shit about Staten Island. Sorry, Staten Island. I just never got out there. But you think they could come down, take a name. But you know what this guy, the captain, Herschel, whatever he was, 6'9". He goes, my friend went over to him and said, hey, why are you talking to my fucking CI like this for? He goes, well, we play hardball. That's what he said. We play hardball. Well, listen, Listen, it takes two to play, and all I got to do is say, I want my lawyer. I'm not talking. I want a lawyer, and that's it. You
We
can't
play hardball. Did you show up with a bat and a fucking mitt?
what?
I mean, how do you call it hardball? You didn't show up with a bat and a mitt.
Hardball meaning
ridiculous.
We're tough guys, and you're going to do what we say. And just look at what they did to Rifkin and how they violated all his rights. They just that put that case in jeopardy.
True.
That put the case in jeopardy.
He could have easily recanted if none of it was documented, and then it would have been like 4 years of fucking court wrangling and bullshit.
But the thing is, while he was confessing, he was telling them where a lot of those bodies were, and they did find them. I know they found one in a Brooklyn dump under a mattress.
Yeah.
Another, and he had them. Then in his house, he chopped them up with a chainsaw in a wheelbarrow. They found pieces of and I'll tell you something else. So when Mary Catherine Williams went missing, 2 months later, I get a call from this guy, Joe Leo. I go down there, and he goes, listen, she's missing. I don't know where she is. We got all her stuff. I said, don't worry. I'll come down, and I'll get her stuff. Maybe she went to Vegas with somebody. Who the fuck knew? So I had her address book. So when all these things happened, I had her address book. I had all her clothes. I had everything. Guess who's in her address book? Joel Rifkin and his phone number, both pager and home number. It was right there.
That's crazy shit. Listen, this Rifkin story, we're gonna leave it here. I have a feeling we could talk a lot more, but I'm gonna leave it here, guys, because we're getting on.
The thing that I got out of this thing right now is that Eddie knew this. See what it is, like you say, 6 steps,
6 degrees,
whatever the fuck. Tiffany
Bacon,
I was on TV. You got to look at my Eddie. Go look at my.
I'm gonna go back to that.
On there, you'll see her in total denial. She shows up at the show wearing a dress that a 6-year-old would wear back in the 50s. A poofy. You know what a poofy dress is? Like poofy. It was like a train underneath the dress. Well, yeah, like a poofy, and she was just so. I wanted to cry every time. I was sitting right next to her on the panel, and I just wanted to cry, and that was before I was a father. Now I'm a father, so I'm thinking, Anyway, well, we got to do this again, Eddie. We got to talk more about. I wanted to talk more about Astoria, but of course I got sidetracked and I wound up going.
Of course.
Oh,
it's easy to happen. It's easy to happen. We'll definitely be in touch, my man.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. We gotta make this happen again because this was a great.
It was great. What do you think? What do you think, Brett?
Good. Can I just plug something before we go? Because since we're talking about Rifkin, if you guys want, there's a video on my channel. It's about an hour long, where I walk through all of East Meadow where Rifkin grew up. I go to his high school. I go to his house where he was keeping the bodies, and I go to the exact spot where he was caught. I think I filmed it about a year ago.
I didn't know.
Very slow moving. It's slow moving. It's about an hour. I mentioned every single. So that's something I put up the other day. I just clipped up the last part. If you forward, you'll see. If you forward to the end or the middle, you'll see I juxtapose his car to the exact spot. Yeah, keep moving forward. You'll see it.
He was such a nice boy. Who knew he was doing such things?
I can't believe
right there. Yeah, you'll see it
right in front of the courthouse. I can't.
So he got pulled over right in front of the courthouse.
See, everybody, that's the difference. But when you get
crazy.
The news from the media and you get the news from NYC Crime Spot, he puts it.
All right, guys. So listen. We're gonna hopefully schedule a part 2 of this and maybe more, but let's just see each one on out, and I'll take the audience on out. Crime Spot, any last words for the audience?
No, thanks for watching, anyone who joined, and if you guys like this, let Manny know if you want us to do this more. Thanks Manny, thanks Eddie, thanks Kevin. You guys check out my channel, NYC Crime Spot. I'm sure many of you follow, but thanks. This was a lot of fun.
No, it was great. Crime Spot. Thanks a lot. Hang out while we see everyone on out. Okay, so we can say
Okay.
goodbye backstage. All right,
God bless everybody.
Take
Eddie,
care, everybody.
Eddie, those are your last words, Eddie?
Yeah.
All right. Hopefully we'll see you soon, my man.
Thank you.
And Kevin. So take us on out, Kevin, with your last words.
You know what? I apologize if I went on a rant on that friggin' Rifkin thing.
Kevin, you're an emotional guy, and we like it.
It's you know, it's not like I'm just telling a story when I reenact the whole friggin' thing, and my mind's got like a movie screen, and then I start seeing it. I actually see that. I was actually back there in 1992.
That's insane.
Well,
So anyway, say goodbye to the audience, Kevin, and then I'll take them on out.
Thanks so much for viewing, everybody, and I'll see you on the next one.
And everyone, on behalf of Kevin, on behalf of Eddie, and on behalf of Crime Spot, I want to say thank you so much for watching this episode. I was looking forward to it all week, and we definitely will have more. Eddie and I will be back doing some more true crime for absolutely sure. Hopefully we'll get Kevin back, and maybe if we're lucky, we will get a reprise, a part 2 of what we did today. All right, guys. Well, anyway, I just want to say thank you so much. This was an awesome time. We got some great shows coming up on the Son of Sam realm, so hopefully we'll see you guys all there. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment. We'll try to get them answered, and we will see you on the next episode. All right, everyone. Thanks a lot.